My name is Riley Yesno. I grew up in Thunder Bay. My community is Fort Hope, and I am currently speaking to you from Toronto, where I live and I work. And I was asked to speak to you today a little bit about queer, Indigenous communities and also homophobia and stigma in the North. For me, growing up, homophobia was something that I definitely experienced and felt, even if that's not what I need to call it at the time. And in my life, that looked like, a general lack of visibility and spaces for queer Indigenous people. And when queer Indigenous people were around, everybody from young people to adults making jokes about them or making rude comments. And this generally left, a strong impression in my little brain about what it meant to be queer and Indigenous. And that stuck with me for a long time. But nowadays, I think things have changed. I currently study my PhD at the University of Toronto, and I look at Indigenous politics, Indigenous governance, and Indigenous history. And what I've found is that queer people actually have been in our communities forever. I think the stat is something like there's 200 languages, Indigenous languages that we know of in North America, and about 150 of them have words for people of different genders, different sexual orientations, other than straight or male, female. And so we have been here for forever. And this homophobia that I was just talking about is actually something really new and happened at the onset of colonization through means like residential schools, for example. And I think we talk a lot about residential schools these days, at least more than we had before. But one of the things that I think is still missing when we talk about residential schools is the impact that they had on our senses of gender and sexuality. When you hear elders and survivors talk about, having their hair cut to look a certain way or having to wear certain outfits or being separated from their siblings on the basis of gender, that is all an imposition of gender norms on our community that many people still don't recognize and haven't been able to unlearn. And that is something that we still really, really need to work on. At the same time, when I go up north now, I see more queer Indigenous young people than ever before. We are very visible, we are very present, and we are demanding to live healthy, happy lives in our homelands. And I think that that is a beautiful thing, not just for us as individuals, but also because it fights back against that colonization that doesn't want us to exist. Growing up, in my experience also, I was trying to navigate the racism of having an Indigenous identity, especially in Thunder Bay. And I felt like it was going to be impossible to come out and embrace my queer identity because it felt like I was adding a whole other layer of things on top of the difficulty I was already experiencing. But in fact, I have found that embracing my queer identity has only brought me joy, that it has brought me closer to others, that it makes me feel proud of, embracing this identity and this role that has been in our communities forever. So if you are also struggling, if you are also queer, if you know somebody who is queer, I think that this is the time to remember our place in our communities, to encourage others, Indigenous, non-Indigenous, everybody, to embrace us for what we bring to the table and to be proud of living freely in our identities. It is not just individual work, it is collective work. And it's something to be, once again, very, very proud of. So, miigwech.